A very good evening, everyone who are with us in this webinar today. My name is Naresh Pal, and I'm the Program Director at TCS ION Direct Academy channel and your host for today's session. On behalf of TCS ION Direct and my team, I welcome you all to a very significant and much talked about topic, the art of metacognition. Study shows metacognition improves students' motivation. As students apply and practice metacognition, they feel more in control of their own learning. Students who learn metacognitive skills become more aware of their own thinking patterns and prove to be apt learners who learn more deeply. It is marked with instructions as an increasingly practical and useful mechanism to advance students' learning, both for immediate outcomes and for helping students to understand their own learning process to deliver priority of learning. This is a very stimulating topic, and we have with us a very special guest who is going to share her thoughts and expertise on significance of metacognition in learning and teaching. It's my pleasure and honor to welcome and introduce our guest speaker, Ms. Rupam Sir. She has been awarded Masters in Organic Chemistry from Bombay University and holds Cambridge International Diploma for Teachers and Trainers from Cambridge University. She is a certified program leader for the Cambridge International Certificate in Teaching and Learning and Educational Leadership. She has been associated with the field of education for past 27 years and is the founder of and CEO of EduLead International. She is also a CBSE resource person and has trained over 15,000 teachers and has also conducted principals leadership trainings for over 2,000 principals across the country. She has won numerous awards and recognitions. The National Women's Excellency Award in 2011, constituted by the Ministry of Development of Northeastern Regions. The Radhakrishnan Award in 2010, constituted by National Child and Wealth Women Development Trust. So a very warm welcome, Ms. Rupam Sir, onto the show.
Thank you, Naresh. Thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you, ma'am. Rupam ma'am, I would like to start by asking for the benefit of our viewers, if you can just tell us what exactly the metacognition is all about.
Right. Thank you, Naresh, for such an elaborate introduction and also inviting me over here. This is one of my favorite topics and I just love to talk about it. The reason being that it is so beneficial to be used inside the classroom by the student-teacher team. Metacognition, as the word says, meta and cognition. So it is about thinking. So it's basically being aware about one's own thinking, also to analyze one's own thinking. Now the purpose of doing this is to identify the strengths, to identify the weakness, to identify what are the things which are going wrong, to identify that how is it that it can be corrected. So you can see that there is so much of value when we are reflecting on something, and especially if we are reflecting on our thinking process, especially if we are reflecting on what strategies are we using. So basically over here you'll find that the people who are practicing or who are doing metacognition, they are the ones who know or they learn how to think and they think how to learn. So both the processes, they go on simultaneously. So if I have to say metacognition, we can basically divide it into two parts. There are two major processes which go on in metacognition. One is metacognitive knowledge and another is metacognitive regulation. So say for example, there is a child who is reading a particular text and after reading a significant portion of text, the child stops and then thinks over that how well have I understood this particular text. Are there certain things which I have not understood? So what is he doing? He is checking on his metacognitive knowledge. Now after this, the child will be able to see that, okay, there are certain gaps and there are certain things which are complex and I have not been able to understand. Then in that case, the child will think about what is that which I need to do so that I can read this and understand this perfectly. So the child may think, okay, let me go ahead and watch a video in this regard, something related to that, or maybe I can discuss it with my peer, or maybe I discuss it with my teacher, or maybe I just go through it all over again. So it depends upon what strategy the child chooses. But now this is the process of metacognitive regulation. So it's basically regulating one's own learning. So you see, there are two major processes over here. One is to be aware about one's metacognitive knowledge, and another is then to regulate it so that this knowledge becomes better. So that is metacognition.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for your evaluative answer. And then I just take up the next question, which says, there are different kinds of learners in the classroom, as you mentioned, and they all respond to classroom activities in a different manner. So how can a teacher empowered with this knowledge of metacognition address the diversity within the class?
All right, it's a very powerful question, Naresh, because this is the most difficult part for educators to handle, and that is the diversity in the class. So let me tell you, what is the diversity? How much amount of diversity is actually there inside the class? So if you see, there are children who are at the grade level. So in terms of readiness, they are at the grade level, they are below the grade level, or they are above the grade level. There are children who have got different interests. There are children who have got different dominant intelligences. And so here we find that there are a variety of different students who are sitting over there. They have different learning styles. So when we are talking about metacognition, in terms of metacognition, it has been identified that there are 4 different types of learners. So the first type of learner is a tacit learner. So tacit learner is the one who will just sit inside the class and is not going to be interacting at all. Now this is the learner who will just not ask any question inside the class. Throughout the day, the child will just keep sitting and be there as such. So such kind of learners are tacit learners, and we do have, though the number is very less, but we do have such kind of learners in our class. Then the second type of learners, they are aware learners. Now aware learners are the ones they will participate in whatever activities the teacher is doing or whatever the teacher is asking to do, but they are not very mindful of what is the significance of this study to them, or they do not really absorb the concept. So they just do the things superficially. So they are aware learners. Now, as we move further, we find the third type of learner, and that these are strategic learners. Strategic learners are the merit holders of your class. They are the ones who will always get the first grade, second grade, and so on. Now, why are they strategic learners? Because they are the ones who will use strategy to come first in the class, to get better marks. So for them, it is very important to achieve. The outcome becomes more important. The results become more important. So they use the right kind of strategies to achieve that. And then there are the fourth kind of learner who is sitting inside the class. They are deep learners. Now they are those learners who will always ask questions to the teachers. They'll be very curious inside the class. They'll keep questioning until and unless they have really got it. And sometimes they do make the teacher also uncomfortable by asking some very difficult questions, or maybe something which is beyond the curriculum. But then these are the people who are not too much worried about whether I'll get marks or not, or whether I'm going to get the first grade or not. They're not worried about that, but they're more concerned about what is the learning and what is its implication in the real world for them. So, I think one of the analogy which goes really well with this is the Three Idiots movie, wherein if you see that the photographer, the R. Madhavan, who was there, so we can say that, okay, he was an aware learner, doing certain things, not doing certain things, not too much interested into it, but still was there. The other one, Chaturlingam, who was there, he was a strategic learner because he had to come first inside the class, so whatever strategy. But in his case, of course, he used a lot of strategy of memorizing, but not always the strategic learners will use memorizing only. They might use the other good strategies as well. But Amir Khan in that movie, you would find, was a deep learner. Why? Because in the same movie, you must have seen that there were so many different places where he actually applied his knowledge in the real life. Now, these are the kind of learners which the teachers would agree that there are all the 4 type of learners who are present inside the class. So what is the role of the teacher in the class? Here the teacher is supposed to be moving the tacit learners, the aware learners, the strategic learners towards deep learning. The teacher has to actually work in such a manner so that these kind of learners are also moving towards learning deeply. Now, how is that possible? What is that which the teacher can do so that they can become deep learners? Now, the first and foremost thing which the teacher should be doing inside the class is to be asking questions. Questions are very important. So, if the teacher is asking questions and the teacher is probing, the teacher should not be the one who has to give all the answers. Rather, teacher should be the one who should keep on asking questions, probing and making the children think. And very, very structured questions which are meaningful, which drive the children towards the concept. So if the teacher has that skill of asking the questions, also if the teacher has the skill of promoting children asking the questions. So there are various strategies by which we can promote children asking the questions in the class. You will find that the dynamics which are there in the class will completely change and they will become thinking students. So when they will start thinking, we will find that they will start becoming deep learners. So basically everything lies in the teacher's hand. And I always say that the teacher is the magician. Teacher has magic. She or she can really create an environment in the class wherein that class is really stimulating, thinking, active, and using certain things which are really applicable in real life. So there are of course a lot of things which the teachers can do to make the children think, to make the children curious, and to make the children deep learners. Idea is that whatever may be the diversity in the class, the only goal which the teacher needs to have in the inside the class is that all my children, are they learning? Are they deeply learning? Are they really getting the concept? And for that, reflection is very important. And I would like to tell you over here that when we talk about metacognition has three very important phases. So the first phase of metacognition is planning. The second phase is monitoring, and the third phase is evaluating. So when we have all these 3 phases where the children are working, planning stage, monitoring stage, evaluating stage, in all the 3 stages, children are reflecting. So reflection is central to metacognition. So whenever inside the class, teachers are making the children reflect, that is the time the children are thinking metacognitively. So I think this is what teachers can do.
Beautifully laid, ma'am. I understand the importance of reflection, the self-evaluation and talk, which is very, very important in learning a language. The moment we don't reflect what we have learned, we cannot move ahead. I would like to ask, and this question which has come from Meeta Gangwani, and I would like to club this question with my third question. She would like to ask what are the practical strategies to be adopted by teachers to develop metacognition skills in learners? So, what activities and the lesson plans can teacher introduce, as a topic to stimulate metacognition?
Right. So, I'll divide this in 2 parts. First is, let's talk about when can metacognitive strategies be introduced in the class. So, suppose we are talking about 40 minutes of a class. And in this 40 minutes of a class, how is it that the teacher is introducing metacognitive strategies? The second part which I'll take up is actually talking about the tools and strategies which the teacher can use in the class. So first thing is, in 40 minutes of class, as the teacher goes inside, what we can actually see is a general lesson plan wherein the teacher starts up with some active strategy just to connect the children to their previous learning. And then the teacher introduces the new concept, carries out some collaborative activity so that the concept building may take place, and after that conducts some formative assessment just to assess whether they have understood it or not. Right? So that's the normal sequence of a lesson plan. Now, when can the teacher introduce metacognitive strategies? The fact is that the teacher can introduce it at any point in time, but the most important place where metacognitive strategies should definitely be introduced is towards the end. Towards the end of the period, last 5 minutes should be reserved for a metacognitive strategy. So let me give you an example. A strategy like 2 stars and a wish. So 2 things which I felt really good or very happy about, or I have completely understood. One thing I wish this could have happened, or I wish I could have understood this better. So this is just one of the strategies. Likewise, there are so many different strategies. Say for example, 3 to 1. 3 things which I've completely understood, 2 things which I think I can apply in my real world, 1 thing which I have not understood. So this way, the teacher can write anything against 3, 2 and 1. So that's another strategy which can be used. So similarly, or maybe the teacher can use in an online scenario a Google form. In the Google form, variety of different questions, reflective questions can be written. Say for example that, how confident are you about this particular concept? Rate it on the scale of 0 to 10. Then the second question could be, if it is less than 10, what is that which you will do to make it 10? So now the child will think, analyze, evaluate that, okay, what is that concept or what is that thing which I have not understood? So, and then we'll also think about how is it that I can make it up to 10. And then so likewise the teacher can keep on adding questions. Google form is given to everybody and the teacher can collate all the responses and immediately get a feedback of where the children are on their learning. Now, when we are talking about metacognition, it is not just for the students, it is for the teachers also. You know, if the teachers are reflective practitioners themselves, they will naturally introduce metacognition inside the class. So when I'm saying teachers need to be reflective practitioners, which means that as the class finishes, the teacher will reflect upon how well did my class do. Is it, was it as per my expectation? Did the activities yield what I wanted to? Or was there time which was wasted? What is that which I will change in this activity for the next time? Did the children really learn what I wanted them to learn? If not, then how will I change my next lesson plan? So all of these are the examples. I mean, these are the things which the reflective practitioner should reflect upon so that every time that she conducts the class becomes better. So it's not metacognition only for the the students, it's for the teachers as well. Another thing is that maybe if you want to introduce metacognition in the middle of the class, if you've done some collaborative activity, in that collaborative activity, after they have finished it, you can just give a small sheet to them and where some questions are written like, how did the collaborative activity go? How are you feeling after that? Do you think your concepts have become better? Or how did you dominate the group? Were you polite with the other members who were there in your group? So likewise, the children will reflect upon their learning, they will reflect upon their behavior, and when they are reflecting and writing it, for sure, next time that they are a part of collaborative activity, they will definitely behave much better and they'll perform much better. So this is what a teacher should be doing inside the class with the lesson plan to keep the children reflecting on their learning as the class proceeds. So that's the first thing, that where can we introduce? The second important thing is that how can we do it? Okay, so of course with such small things like 3 to 1 and things which I have told, but apart from that, there is a big significant strategies which the teachers can use for the benefit of the students. If suppose the children have to create a project and it is something which they have to work over a month, and so what is that which the teacher can do? So I'm just talking about one of the strategy which is known as metacognitive think aloud. Now this metacognitive think aloud is you are thinking but you're thinking it aloud. Now this is a project which is new to the children and you just don't want to give the project and say that okay, you start off, but you want to do the proper kind of a hand holding so that they don't waste their time. You give a direction to them. So there are 3 steps to this metacognitive think aloud. The first step is that the teacher speaks about how, if she has to do that project, how would the teacher go about and attempt this project? And the way she would say is that, okay, if this is the work which I need to be doing, or this, or maybe suppose if I say that it's a design thinking process, it's a design thinking project which the teacher has provided. Now, for a design thinking, you need to identify what is the problem first. So maybe the teacher has not even provided any kind of a topic to the project. It's open for everyone. So she may say that, okay, I will go ahead, first of all, try to search about what problem should I work upon. So maybe I'll go ahead and interview my parents, and I'll interview my siblings and the neighbor, and I'll go on the internet and see, and just try to figure out, is there some very prominent problem which is there, which I will be working on. And if I have been able to identify the problem, then I'll go to the internet again and try to search some videos related to that, gather some information and around it, and see that if the information is sufficient enough for me to put things together. And when I am researching on the internet, I will not just be there on the YouTube. I will also go on Google Images, because Google Images a lot of time lead us to the right kind of websites. So here the teacher is giving them an idea that if she has to go about and do it, maybe she will do it in this manner. Now that's the step one of it. She has just opened, some way for them to think. She is providing triggers to the children to think. Now, once those triggers are there with the students, the teacher will say that, fine, now quickly get into pairs and then talk about it, that if you have to do it, what method are you going to be adopting it? So share your method with the partner, and partner will share it with you. Now, if once that is done, then the teacher opens the discussion, and everybody is now contributing that they might do this, they will do this, and so on. So the entire class, they have got so many ideas already. Now, the teacher has not done anything. Teacher has only triggered their brain and done a lot of brainstorming. They have got the ideas. Now, teacher will tell them that, okay, now, so you see, there are 3 steps. One is the teacher saying, second step is that the partners are discussing, the third step is that the whole class is discussing. So here, the student is getting to see the teacher's mind, to see his or her partner's mind, and the whole class mind. So everybody's mind is something which is lying open now. So that's first thing which is done. Now the teacher will say that, fine.
Fabulous.
Let's begin with the planning process, right? So if you remember, I said 3 phases are there in metacognition: planning, monitoring, and evaluating. So when the students begin with the planning process, they will begin with week 1 planning, week 2 planning, week 3 planning, week 4 planning. What is that which they are going to do? Let them write it. So this is what the teacher needs to direct. Now, once their week-wise planning is done, then there is the second step which will come in, and that is monitoring. So the teacher will ask them to create reflection sheets wherein they will write that after week 1, I will see whether I've been able to do this. Is it proceeding in the right direction? Are there some kind of challenges that I'm facing, and so on. So after every week, they are going to fill up the reflection sheet just to see how the work is proceeding. And so this is the process of monitoring. And once they have finished their project, after that, they are supposed to be evaluating it. Now, evaluating on the basis of success criteria. What are success criteria? Before they have even begun with the project, the teacher will either work it out together with the students or provide the success criteria to the students that their project will be considered as completed if this is done, if this is done, if this is done. So the complete checklist is there. And they have to see what is the success criteria, and they have to evaluate their project against that success criteria. So that's the process of evaluation. And if there is a problem, they have to do the debugging. They have to find out, okay, how do I now, whom do I approach, and how do I, manage this? This entire process which is happening over here, you will find that there is a lot of metacognitive thinking which is going on. And think about it, that how much amount of 21st century skills are they getting in this? They are, first of all, they are understanding how to generate an idea, how to generate creative solutions, how to research and access data, how to organize the data, how to collaborate together, how to evaluate. All of these are 21st century skills. All of these are higher order thinking skills. So,
Mhm.
this is like one of the strategy which the teacher can use inside the class, wherein metacognition can be promoted. Likewise, of course, there are a lot of other strategies. If time permits, I will say, because I don't know what are the constraints of time at your end.
No, no,
Yeah.
no. You are beautiful. I mean, you have beautifully explained the concept, and which has now cocked up my ears. I mean, till now, I thought that reading and reading aloud exercise are there, no, for improving the reading skills. And now I've got to know the thinking and thinking aloud, and there are a couple of steps. Before getting into the another question which came from, I would like to ask, which exemplified by this movie Three Idiots. He says learning is very important in metacognition. What I understand, Rupam ma'am, for learning, I think somewhere unlearning is also important.
Yes.
And then the relearning. Could you please try to elaborate a bit more on this?
Yes, yes, and there is so much of this is happening. That if you are just relating it directly to the concept of metacognition, a lot of unlearning will happen. So, see, two things. One, when I said that the teacher should be questioning inside the class, and teacher's question should be proper. So there are certain questions which the teacher puts up in the class, which will remove the misconceptions of the students, right? So maybe the teacher may ask, are you assuming something over here? So what assumptions are you making? On what facts are these based? So now when or what is the logic behind it? When the teacher asks these kind of questions, those misconceptions are removed. And so there is some kind of a learning which has already taken place, the unlearning would take place. And then the relearning will take place with the new concept, right? Second important thing is that, and this is a thing with the fast changing environment, with so much of technology which is changing, not just the children, everybody, all of us who are there, we have to unlearn, we have to relearn. So these things have to happen, and this is something which is also coming under adaptive skills, and it is 21st century skill. If the teacher inside the class is creating that kind of a stimulating environment, children will understand that learning is a complete dynamic process, it's a lifelong process, and they have to keep evolving their learning. To evolve the learning, they have to unlearn, they have to learn, they have to relearn. So this is a process which will keep happening.
Well laid, ma'am. Well, thank you very much. So that comes to, could you please elaborate a bit more on some methodologies, tools which are available, which can be helpful for the teacher as well as for the students, so that they can measure and gauge their progress in learning and teaching?
Yes, yes. Again, a very relevant question, wherein they are measuring. And when you say measure their progress, it's more like evaluating. So
yes.
I'll give you an example of something which is known as wrappers. Now these are examination wrappers. So in this, what happens is that suppose the children have appeared for an examination. Teacher has provided the answer sheets to the corrected answer sheets to the students. Now the children are sitting with these answer sheets, and teacher provides a reflection sheet to them. Now in this reflection sheet, the questions which are written are that how well did you do in your examination? Was it as per your expectation? Do you think that, are you satisfied, first of all, satisfied or not? If not satisfied, where did you feel that your preparation lacked? What more can you do next time? Right? So that is how they are going. And then they may also, the question could be that, okay, next test, what do you think? How well will you be prepared for your test? So let them write it. Now that reflection sheet is written by the students and taken by the teacher. Before the next exam comes, almost say 15 to 20 days prior to the next examination, teacher hands over the same sheet to the students. And then she says that now, because you're preparing for your next examination, this is something which you reflected upon. It's a good idea that you go through it once again. Second is that go and talk to 2 friends of yours and find out how are they preparing for the examination, right? So now they are also getting some ideas about how they are going to prepare. They are also reading as to what did they wrote before, after an examination, so that now that the examination is coming up, they are not going to be making these mistakes. Teachers can also, and in fact, this is the duty of the teacher. If time permits, I will elaborate on this, that teachers should empower their students with a lot of teaching study strategies. right? The students should have a bank of study strategies with them. I will give examples of some of the study strategies, but
Please.
that's the duty of the teacher to provide it to the students, and then the students will choose those study strategies which are going to help them. Now they have done all this exercise, they have written their examination, they have got their paper once again. Once they have got the answer sheet again the teacher gives the reflection sheet. See, once the teacher distributes the answer copies to the students, there are two things which the teacher does. One is that she will tell that, okay, the answer to this question is this, the answer to this question is this, most of you made mistake in this, and so on. So this is the discussion which goes on. This is a part of cognition. This is everything which is related to cognition, right? Metacognition will be when the teacher hands over the reflection sheets and she says that, okay, how do you compare this exam result to your previous exam result?
Wonderful.
Right. So all that the child had reflected upon, the child is made to reflect upon once again. Now, when you are rigorously taking the students through this exercise, you will find that the children will become more aware. They will not just become aware, they will become self-directed learners. They will now know that if they have to prepare for the examination, what are the various things or what are the various strategies that they can use, or what are the mistakes that they are making. So when you make the children reflect, they become aware. They are able to identify what are the strengths and weaknesses. So therefore, so this is like one of these strategies, examination wrappers. Similarly, while the teacher is taking a lesson, that's known as lesson wrappers. There's not enough time in which I can really talk about all of these things, but there are a lot of different kind of wrappers which are available. I've just elaborated about the examination wrapper. So this is also one of the strategy. And with this, I'm sure creative teachers must have got a lot of idea now how to use metacognitive strategies inside the class.
Yes, ma'am. Well said. I mean, I'm getting curious to know more and more. I understand because of the time you are also restricting yourself. So along with the metacognition, can we do some kind of SWOT analysis teacher can do it for themselves and for the students. And somewhere, if the time permits, can we play johari window, which shows us the 4 quadrant of our strengths and weaknesses? If you can throw some light on it, ma'am.
So both the things, as you said, SWOT analysis as well as johari window will be basically making you look inwards, right? Or SWOT analysis, of course, will also be making you look into your environment, because that talks about the opportunity, that talks about the threats, along with the strengths and weaknesses. Johari window is like completely reflecting yourself. How are people perceiving you? How are you perceiving yourself? What are the things which you do not know about yourself? Others know. What are the things which nobody knows? Neither you know and neither the other people know, right? With this, what happens is it's an eye opener. When you do johari window, it's an eye opener, because there are so many blind spots which are there, which we basically are not able to look into. And once that is provided, that becomes so useful. And here now, because you're bringing johari window here, I would say that inside the school, a 360-degree feedback is a very important thing.
Very important.
In fact, what I am asking the teachers to do to the students, the teachers to go about and they take metacognitive strategies inside the class, I would say the principal of the school should take it with their staff members. Because the staff members have to be reflecting on various things which are going on inside the school, has to give the feedback and tell about what is good, what is not so good, how can it be improved. So this is a process which should be continuously there inside the school. So when we are saying 360-degree feedback, even the school principal has to expose herself and say that, okay, now the staff members are there, you need to be telling me what are my strengths, what are my weaknesses and things. Similarly, the teachers should expose themselves to their colleagues and to their top management and ask for the feedback. And all of this should be taken as a support. It should be taken as a gift, as a treasure which is being given to you, because that is something which is going to make you much better. You are going to become a better individual by taking all of these feedbacks. And this is actually growth mindset. So when we are saying that if we are taking feedbacks and if we are happy about the feedbacks, if we receive the critical feedbacks with a smile and work on it, then we are displaying growth mindset. And any school which has an environment of growth mindset, you will find automatically the children will also have that growth mindset. They will understand that failing doesn't mean that it is the end. They will know that fail means that it is just a step that I am taking. I will be moving forward. That's not an end. So that is the culture which needs to be created. And everything, I would say, always begins with the school leader. If the school leader is the one who can model and who can exemplify it by his ideas, by his actions, by his beliefs, then you will find that the teachers are influenced. If the teachers are influenced, you'll find that the students will automatically, everything will flow down. It's a complete top-down approach. So that's the thing. I think when you're saying about Johari window and SWOT analysis, that's something which should be definitely there throughout. And everything, all of these things require a lot of reflection, and it increases self-awareness.
Yes. So, I mean, I would like to just add here, you well said that teachers and the principal can also do this kind of self-analysis and self-reflection to themselves. But I mean, most of the teachers are parents also. Why not to have this metacognition and take it to the family level also? We can just apply there as well, ma'am?
Absolutely. There are various parenting styles. If you see, there is an autocratic parenting style, an authoritative parenting style, a very pessimistic, passive parenting style, democratic parenting style, egalitarian parenting style. So in this, the best one is wherein the child and the parent can sit down and talk. Parent is not a know-all here. Like a teacher should not be a know-all. Similarly, a parent also has to be a not a know-all. And parents should also learn the skill of asking questions. So if the children are coming to them, they are coming with their problem, instead of instantly providing them the solution ki theek hai aisa kar lo or do it in this manner, because you are of course all knowing, you have so much of experience, you will definitely go ahead and give them solutions, right? They may not like your solution because it does not come from their head, right? So it's always better that whenever there is any kind of a problem which is there, which the child comes up with, the parents should always, by asking the right kind of questions, should make the children come out with their answers, should make the children come out with the solutions. And when they come out with the solutions, they become problem solvers. They will identify, okay, this is the best solution, and they will feel the ownership of that solution. It is exactly the same which should go inside the classroom. So when we are talking about the parents asking question to the student and to the child, and the child is answering, how will the child answer? Without reflecting, the child will not answer. Child will reflect and then answer. So this is metacognition, right? Whenever you're making the child reflect, that's metacognition. So asking the right questions. If you can ask the right questions, that's the massive work which you're doing in somebody's life.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very, very much, ma'am. So, I mean, a couple of the questions which have come, but I would like to ask, because that's very crucial, particular, that's the perfect time. So we talked about a lot of learning, thinking, and how metacognition helps. So do we have some kind of implications and challenges of metacognition in classroom for the educators as well as for the students? So what are those challenges and implications which a teacher and student face?
When you're saying implications, the consequences of metacognition, I think for past some time we've been discussing the positives of metacognition. What is that which the metacognition will yield inside the class, outside the class, to the students? Students will become, as I said, they'll become self-directed learners, they'll become critical thinkers, they'll become problem solvers, they'll be ideators. So all of that will happen, and everything, all of this is very positive, right? Another advantage of metacognition is for the school management, teachers and everybody, that it does not require any money. You do not require to have elaborate labs or any equipment for metacognition. What you require is the intent of the teacher, right? To create such kind of metacognitive sheets or ask such kind of questions or create that environment. So it's only the intent which is required. You don't require anything else. And the challenges which I feel which might be there, of course, is the skill sets. The skill sets of the teachers, if that is compromised, if you do not know how to ask questions, if you do not know how to involve children into a dialogue, if you cannot probe further, if you are yourself not somebody who reflects, if you are yourself not of a growth mindset, you will find that it will become very difficult to do the same inside the class. So the challenge is, if the teacher is having a compromised skill set in this direction, things will not work up, or it will not yield the result which is desired. And second thing I think is that the challenge is for the school principal, wherein she has to take an initiative. One has to be really driven to bring about that complete change in the environment, which means that the environment has to become more open. Instead of very rigid and very structured, the environment needs to become more open. We need to be providing a little more freedom of people to speak their minds, and we should be ready to listen to what things are happening. So that if that kind of an environment can be created, which of course, it's easy to say, but it's a little difficult to create. But that I think would be the challenge. Rest, I cannot think of any such challenge with respect to metacognition, apart from the skill sets.
Yeah, ma'am, one question which has come from Damodar Gurapu. He's asking, don't you think self-learning needs monitoring with some set goals, targets?
Very good question. Self-learning definitely needs learning goals. And when I said, and I'm relating this to metacognition itself, when I said metacognition has three important phases. So one phase is planning, another is monitoring, third is evaluating. So when we are talking about self-learning, the first phase of planning comes in. What is that which I need to learn? So the learning goal has to be identified properly. How is it that I will be learning? So the steps need to be there. So all of this comes as a part of planning. And once the planning is in place, then you start working on it, and then you keep monitoring. And all of this is a process of self-learning. All of this is self-learning.
Yeah. Thank you very much,
I don't know
ma'am.
whether I've answered the question properly or not.
Yes. So I think there is another question, and I think though ma'am, this is a question from Shikha Agrawal. She hasn't mentioned the organization's name, but I can infer, because she is asking for hiring, so she must be at the post of the principal. She's asking how to measure whether a teacher has the skills set of metacognition or not at the time of hiring. At the time of hiring, during the interview.
Yeah. I think this is very easy to do. When you are hiring a teacher, I'm sure every school goes ahead with a three-step process. One is that there is a written test, which is subject-related test, and then there is an interview, and if everything goes well, there is a demo session, and so this is the process of hiring generally. Now, if in the written test itself, if there are some questions which are related to metacognition, and that should be related to the person. So if you are asking certain questions like, of course, things should be related to pedagogy. So maybe you can ask questions like, what do you think a reflective practitioner should be doing? Or what are the, how can you be a reflective practitioner? How can you improve your own planning process? These kind of questions, if it is there. Or maybe questions like, if a child comes to you with a problem, what is that which you're going to do? Or maybe the problem can also be listed over there. Whether the problem is listed and and it is asked that, okay, if this is the thing which is there, then how is it that you are going to solve? So you will be able to identify what are the soft skills of this person, whether this person has the right kind of life skills or not. So when we are doing these kind of written tests, we will be able to identify the thought process of the teacher, and through that we will be able to, with this it's important that who is setting the question and who is evaluating it. The person who is going to be evaluating the answers, that person also should be well qualified to evaluate it properly. So this itself will be giving you a good idea. And while you are asking questions, whenever there is interviews and when you are asking questions, at that time try to ask a lot of open-ended questions wherein you can understand what is the thought process of the teacher. So I think at these two stages you can judge to some extent, but I always believe that hiring is just 10% of the job. 90% of the job is in-service training which is provided to the teacher, because in an environment how the teacher will adopt, it's all very contextual. My school's environment could be different from another person's school's environment, so we have to train the teacher according to that environment. So in-service training plays a very, very big role. If the schools have proper professional development programs in place, they have the right kind of people who are guiding and mentoring, then it becomes really easy. So I think experts are the person who should be there, who can guide the teachers in various fields. Emotional intelligence is one of the most important things which the school leader as well as the teachers inside the class should be aware of. Developing positive relationship is something which is so important for everybody to know. So if these are the things which we work upon, these are the basics, if they are set straight, rest of the things will fall in place.
Yeah, thank you very much, ma'am. It was my, in fact, last question, and you have already answered about the teacher training and all. I understand there's a paucity of time, and ma'am, I really enjoyed this session. All right, thank you very, very much for this wonderful session. Can you please share your takeaways for the audience? Rupam, ma'am.
I feel that the educators who have joined us today should always remember. One is that while we are planning, let's put our best in planning. There is Pareto's 80-20 principle, which says that if you are putting your 80% effort in planning, then with 20% in execution, you will be receiving 80% results. So what happens over here is, if the teacher is doing the planning really well, then half of the work is done. Inside the class, if the teacher is making the children think, is creating a stimulating environment, is making the children reflect, rest half is done. That is the only thing which needs to be done. And another third important thing is that if the teacher does not really have to work too much on the students. If the teacher works on himself, on herself, their own personality, it will automatically get transfused to the students. The teacher's energy, the teacher's brilliance, the teacher's skill sets, they automatically pass on. You don't have to make too much of efforts. So the effort which is needed is in improving our own skill. If we do that, rest of the things will again happen nicely inside the class. So I think the key takeaways here would be to plan well and to execute well, to learn the skill of questioning. So if they go on the internet, they will find a lot of variety of reflective questions which are there. They should download that and try to use these questions inside the class just to begin with.
I understand, very good explanation, and thumbs up and laurels are coming on the chat. They are really enchanted with your insightful session. So at the end, I would like to thank you everyone out there, and I would like to give a very big and special thank to Ms. Rupam Saha for taking out her valuable time for this session. We really enjoyed the session, ma'am.
It was my pleasure completely. Thank you so much for providing me this opportunity. Thank you, Naresh. Thank you.
Thank you very much.